Welcome to the Digital Topic Day in Lauresham on the big topic of textiles. I would like to give you a little overview about several possibilities of patterning in tablet weaving. Tablet weaving is a special weaving method, and we already have finds for this from the Bronze Age onwards, both pieces of tablet woven bands and the tablets that were used to make them. It is a technique that has a lot of pattern possibilities, and in contrast to normal weaving, so to say, you do not have a loom, but instead you have those tablets, square cards that are threaded with different colored threads, and you form a new shed by turning those tablets, and with differently colored threads you can get a nice pattern. So this is also the first patterning method that I would like to introduce you to. It's the so-called threaded in pattern, and you have a plan, hopefully a pattern plan in your head or written down. According to this, you thread the tablets with differently colored threads in a certain sequence, and then when you turn the tablets, different colors appear on top and you get a pattern. For the historical bands, you usually turn the tablets only in one direction. There are a few patterns where you have a rhythmical change of turn direction, but many of the historical patterns and also many of the simple patterns are threaded in, so you just have to turn everything in one direction. And here you can see the pattern appear. It's a kind of squares in green and white and yellow. This is a rather quick and easy technique to make patterns. The first historical band I would like to introduce you to is from the find of Oseberg. Oseberg is a ship grave that was found in Norway already in 1903. It was excavated during several years. Following that, it has very, very good textile conservation, so there are a lot of beautiful textiles found there. It's also been dated. The ship was built at about 820, and the grave is dated to about 830. There were two women buried in this ship. You can see it today in the museum, the Viking ship museum in Oslo. And there are a lot of pictures online available on the photo database of the Norwegian museums of this ship and also of the textiles. A lot of different tablet woven bands were found in Oseberg. They have mostly been published. Some of the more narrow bands, the simpler bands, have not been published yet. The one that I will show you here has been published, and it's the band on the find 12L1. You can see the whole find here, looking rather brown. And here is a close-up, a detail of the original find, where you can still see a bit of contrast and you can see the texture of the tablet woven band. It is possible to reconstruct the band from this. It was woven with 8 tablets. 5 of those were threaded just with light or dark threads, and 3 of them form the actual pattern bit. They are threaded in with dark and light threads, and you get this row of little diagonal pattern units by turning all the tablets in one direction. The next technique that I would like to introduce is brocading on monochrome ground. This is a technique that is not limited to tablet weaving, or that is not special for tablet weaving, but it can be used with any weaving technique. There is an additional pattern weft that is running across the surface of the fabric, showing the pattern. Historically, bands like this were usually woven in silk, and the pattern thread, the brocading thread, is very often a metal thread. This gives a very, very nice effect, as you can see here on this quite narrow example. For this, the pattern is picked out. You use a needle or a pickup stick, or like in this case, a weaving knife, to pick up the threads that will hold down the brocading thread. It's usually not running right across, but dipping below the band a little bit inside, so you get neater edges, and the individual threads that run over the brocading thread together with the thread form the pattern. You can see it being done here with fine silk threads. That is the brocading weft going in, a gold thread, and of course there's also a ground weft that has to go in, which happens right now. And then all tablets are turned in the same direction, and this results in a pattern like this on the surface of the band. The historical example that I have for you for this is the so-called Vitgarios belt. It has been dated to the second half of the 9th century, consists of 80 tablets that were threaded in with red silk, and there's additional border tablets, 4 yellow ones and 2 red ones. It is silk, and the brocading thread is gold, probably gold around the silk core. The patterning, as you can see, is splendidly golden, and it's done just by the brocading thread. The unusual bit about this is that the belt is brocaded on both sides. You have kind of a negative on the back of the band where you have golden letters on red background in mirror image. The front of the band is red letters on golden ground, and when you look very closely you can see that the letters are not all matching on top and bottom, and it would be very, very interesting to find out how exactly this brocading was done to achieve that effect. Today this belt can be seen in the museum in St. Afra in Augsburg. Here's a close-up of the top of the band. You can see that there's 2 threads from each tablet holding down the brocading weft, and you can also see that the gold threads are very, very close to each other, and it is very difficult to achieve this wonderful density of golden threads, which makes a lot of the effect of the brocaded surface. The next patterning method is patterns based on diagonals. For this, all the tablets are threaded in the same way, with 2 light threads and 2 dark threads next to each other. You can see this here. And then they are arranged so that the light and the dark threads run around the stack of tablets in a kind of spiral. And you can also see this here. As a result, when you turn all the tablets into one direction, you will get diagonal lines on the top of your tablet woven band. You can see this here. The diagonals are appearing now and growing a bit longer with each weft that is put in. And as you can also see on top of this band, it's possible to use an additional brocading weft. By changing the turn direction of the tablets, you can change the slant of the diagonals from right to left, and you can also weave little lozenges, as you can see here. In contrast to the threaded-in patterns, where you might need quite some time to set up all your tablets, threading in tablets for diagonal patterns is very quick and easy. However, the weaving might take a longer time because you have to decide where you need diagonal lines going in this or that direction, and you have to sort and turn your tablets accordingly. The band that I would like to introduce as an example from the Middle Ages is the so-called Maniple of Saint Ulrich. It is also in Augsburg today and can be seen in Saint Ulrich and Afra. It's dated to the third quarter of the 10th century and is a silk ground weave brocaded over with gold thread, consisting of 134 tablets. The borders are green and the pattern zone is red and white. You can see that there is a sort of geometrical line, a patterned line forming lozenges, and inside those there are more patterns. There are different, usually not motifs, and there is also a key motif which shows a hand with the text Textile Days, hand of God. When weaving this, you weave the diagonal pattern and the additional brocading weft covers the red lines on top of the band. You just leave the pattern, the motif parts free, and this makes them really stand out and really pop. Weaving this can be rather complex because you have to change the turn direction of the tablets at the correct place so that you have the properly meeting lines and diagonals going in the proper direction when you are weaving. You can also see this is a rather time-consuming technique because you have to put in two wefts. You have to make sure that the wefts are both sitting correctly, and of course you have to weave the basic pattern that forms the lines of your motifs that you would like to have. The last patterning possibility I would like to introduce today is weaving in the so-called 3-1 broken twill method. This is a continuation of weaving patterns on the basis of diagonals. You have a unicolored background by changing the turn direction of individual tablets on a rhythmical basis. You still retain a sort of diagonal structure in the background of this single color surface, and this is why the technique is called twill. It has nothing to do with proper woven twill on a loom the kind of fabric that you probably best know from jeans. It's just reminding people of this twill structure, and that is where the name comes from. This is technically very challenging technique, but you have a lot of patterning possibilities without introducing an extra brocading weft, and you can weave wonderful animal and geometrical pattern. The historical band that I have for you in this technique is the band from Everbø. This is from Norway and has been dated to the 6th century. It's a band with animal motifs that has been sewn to a woolen fabric, and it has 20 tablets in the pattern area which are threaded in with red and blue threads. You can find this band today in the Historical Museum in Bergen, and pictures of it are also online on the museum database of Norwegian museums. You can see the band with its attached fabric here. And here is a close-up where you can see the little stylized animals and looking very geometrical in this case. One of the great questions that we have in textile research today is how were such patterns made without using a large pattern draft like most modern weavers do. And it is possible to reconstruct a technique to do this kind of weaving. You will see how an animal similar to that on the Everbø band can be woven. The tablets are arranged in 2 packs that turn in opposite directions. This method, this system, is developed from Carina Grömer's system for tablet weaving, also using the 2 packs of tablets that are turning in opposite directions. And with this setup, you can always see which colored thread will come up in your next pick. The difficulty with this technique or this method is to keep your orientation on where your lines run, which direction they run, and whether you will have to change the general turn direction before starting a pattern, or whether you can go on. So there is a lot of checking and a lot of rearranging and rechecking, and sometimes going the opposite way after all, once you see that this was not the right way to turn the tablet. This is the monochrome background now, where the tablets change their direction in this very rhythmical fashion. And as you can see, this just takes quite a lot of time due to all the steps necessary before each turn of the tablets and before each weft. Because of this, I am going to speed up the process, and you will see most of the animal weaving at 25 times normal speed. So you can see the minutes run by on the clock in the bottom right corner. And very soon now the little tail tip or the back end of the animal is going to start. Getting the tablets sorted out to start a pattern on the monochrome background takes a little bit of time, as in you have to start the directional change for your tablets if necessary at a point a few wefts before you can actually see the pattern start to appear. The tablets are now split into 2 groups, I call those chapters, and these serve as a help to orient myself when I have an edge, for example, an edge where the lines run into different directions and I need to keep track of where this split is. You can see the animal starting to appear now. There's the tail growing towards my left-hand side, so towards the bottom of the screen, and the body is growing towards my right hand. There is a lot of checking and a lot of thinking, and occasionally there's a little break. You can also see that you need quite a bit of space on the warp to arrange the tablets in those groups for better orientation. Basically, all you need to be able to do in this method is to tell dark threads from light threads and to count up to 2, but counting to 2 successfully can be surprisingly difficult. You can see that in the pattern areas where there's just stripes, like at the feet of the animal, all the tablets turn in one direction, so they are all arranged in one neat stack. And where there are color changes or where there's the monochrome background, the tablets are arranged so that they turn into opposite directions 2 by 2. And it is, of course, also possible to make mistakes. As always, sometimes the mistakes can just be fudged over, and in some cases they are bad enough that it is worth going back. This also happened here. The neck turned out to be way too broad, so the split between the neck of the animal and the front legs was too far down. And the only way to fix that was to go back quite a few wefts, because you need a little bit of preparation time to make the split happen at the correct place. So now you can see weaving back, and this is done by taking out the wefts. There's time in between to reorient myself and to check whether I'm still in the wrong zone or whether it's already possible to go on weaving. And it turned out that I had to take out yet another weft. So as always, it is much better and much quicker not to make mistakes instead of taking them out again. And now you can see the animal appearing again, this time with the neck in the right thickness. At my right hand side, the front legs are appearing, all the tablets turning in one direction. At my left hand side, the head of the animal is forming. With the twill technique and also with the diagonals technique, there is a possibility to change your turn directions when you're in a pattern only every second weft. So it's important to find the right spot to do these changes of direction. And the last few wefts back to normal speed again. You can see the monochrome surface forming again now, and the tablets are changing their twist direction every second one in every turn. While it can be quite easy to make mistakes in this technique, in many cases it's also possible to just go on until you find a line again, or until you can unobtrusively fix it. In the medieval originals, looking closely, you can also see that the original weavers did make quite a lot of mistakes in some cases, and there is also the occasional, oh, just fake it till you make it to the next line area, where you can see that something went not quite as planned, but wasn't bad enough to actually weave back and undo it and do it again. So this is a possibility to weave twill patterns without a pattern raft, and it is requiring quite a bit of brain, but it's very fun and very rewarding to weave in this way. Twill patterning can be found on rather a lot of bands. It can also be seen on the end bits of the Vitgarius belt, where we have a gold brocaded eagle on red background, and you can see that the gold brocade is made over white threads. So it is actually a white eagle done in twill patterning over the red background. And this is a very nice way of having an extra effect, because the underlying white color does change the effect of the gold over it. There is also the motif of the hand in the maniple of Ulrich, where you can see that twill patterning was used. This was a little introduction into different patterning possibilities for medieval tablet woven bands. It's by far not all of them. There is much more to discover, but I hope you had fun, and thank you for watching.